cities, 200 cities per bag in Saboba, and maize 10 cities per Oloka. I don't know what that means. What weight is it? So that one we have to deal with that later. But yes, first of all, we've had such a massive increase in global fertilizer prices. Fertilizer is not produced in Ghana. We depend upon imports for all our fertilizer requirements. And fertilizer industry globally has not escaped the impact of COVID. You know that industry was shut down for many months and so on. So the amount of fertilizer coming on the world market is far lower than it has been in previous years. And of course, that means that prices have jumped. And prices have jumped beyond the reach of a lot of our local suppliers. That's one of the main reasons that we can give for the shortage. So the amount that we as a government were prepared to give to the suppliers, these contracts were signed almost a year ago. And then prices started rising. And they came back to us to say, now they are bringing the fertilizers in if we can adjust the price. But you know that had already gone into the Ministry of Finance books through Parliament. And so it wasn't something that could be changed like between two enterprises. You're dealing with the government, and once that enters the books, that's it. The appropriation bill is passed, and that becomes law for the whole year. So we couldn't do anything about it. And this is why the amount that of fertilizer going into the subsidy had to be reduced. And farmers have to rely on the open market. And yes, it's not only in Saboba, all over the country, farmers, for a very large part, have to rely on the open market price of 180, 190, 200. Because we were subsidizing to the tune of 50% of that. That means that the farmer paid half and the government paid half. So once the quantity was limited in that area, then the open market was the only alternative. So that's the answer that I can give you. Media General, exports of maize, current state of buffer stock. The buffer stock, as we know it, is...
Sorry, Minister, sorry to interrupt and come back to you. So, beyond that challenge that took place, now has the system smoothened?
No, in fact, fertilizer prices are still going up as I speak to you, and that's a worrying bit, because we've been checking on the world market prices of fertilizer. They are still going up. So I don't know what is going to happen in the next year. You see, the idea of subsidy is not a permanent feature. Very few farmers were using improved seed and fertilizer, as I demonstrated to you. And that was taking us nowhere. When you can reap 3, 4 times, sometimes 10 times more than you can with what I call the same sweat, why wouldn't you take advantage of modern technology? So the idea was that you are dealing with some of the poorest workers in Ghana are farmers. So if you were to ask him, like the gentleman is so concerned about Saboba, to go onto the open market to start the program, there was no way anybody would look in your face. So we had to drop prices. In fact, in the case of seeds, we had to drop prices sometimes as much as 90%, just to persuade the farmers to try it. And now they've tried it, and they see the huge benefit that they can gain from it. So this whole idea about subsidy is a temporal phenomenon to get as many farmers on it, and farmers are responding. You can, from the statistics that I showed you about the beneficiaries, they are responding. So the thing is that we just hope that in Ghana now, we are producing gas for the first time in our history, surplus gas that we are pumping down. We are seriously engaged world investors to come and establish a plant using our gas, because gas is one of the major inputs for fertilizer production. So, and we are making progress steadily, and we are hoping that the day will come that Ghana will be able to produce fertilizers using our own gas here, and then we can look at the price. But until then, we are at the mercy of the world price. So long as the world prices keep going up, there's nothing that we can do. We are just price takers. And that is something that government will have to look at in terms of adjusting to the new situation of rising fertilizer prices. On the last 4 years, this is the first time this has happened, and it's because of the COVID. That's one of the effects that we have from the COVID, the negative adverse effect on our farmers and our agriculture.
Okay.
So that's the answer.
Yeah, thank you. So let's proceed to the other ones.
Okay. Media general, you're talking about exports of maize, current state of buffer stock. Buffer stock is not being operated in this country. A buffer stock is when you have a harvest, when prices are at their lowest, you buy off the market and keep away in a warehouse under certain conditions, and then when prices are going up or the season is ending, stocks are low, you release this to stakeholders so that their troubles will be over. We've now, as I said, have now taken over the 80 warehouses that the government has now built. We have to go to the next stage of creating an authority which will be from the seed at the scientist laboratory all the way to the retail, that will be regulated and will promote grains. So we're talking about Grain Development Authority, which my ministry is now busily working on to present to cabinet and to government to create, just like the Tree Crop Authority, to create a Grains Development Authority, which will then take over all this and will be able to go to the market to borrow money, to buy at the harvest season, and to sell to stakeholders in the lean season. So until that is done, and we are hoping that in the next one year, this will happen, we'll be at the mercy of the traders, as we've seen in the past. So we are not regions which are not affected by bird flu. Yes. The ministry, as you know, we have veterinary services across the 16 regions of this country. So all of them are alert, and they are doing everything to ensure that this outbreak will be limited to the regions. In fact, when it started in Greater Accra, I was praying that it would be limited to Greater Accra. But by the time we realized, it was already in Volta and Central Region. So our services have been alerted, and they are doing all the surveillance work and so on, monitoring the farms in the various regions to make sure that they are following specific procedures to minimize any spread from the those farms now, even within the region. For instance, Greater Accra, we know the farms that have been affected. So outside these farms, which are the nearest farms around them, we are keeping a surveillance on them, advising the farmers and asking them some very strict protocols in order to stop the spread. So that is what we are doing about that. You asked about the jobs for planting for food and jobs for each module. I don't have the figures for each module, but but I know that our estimates as of 2020, we had created over 2 million jobs from the five modules that we've been operating, most of them in the crop subsector, in the livestock, in the value chain, and all that. Kesben, European rose in Sisala. Yes, you are referring to the protest which came up in Sisala because the EU financed roads, about $36 million. None of them were found in Sisala area, although they are a major producer of grains in this country. The chiefs came to visit us, myself and my colleague Minister of Roads and Highways. We had very cordial discussions with them. The government is relocating some roads, not with the EU because that has been agreed and passed, but readjusting the other roads that are under the ministry to make sure that Sisala benefits as much as possible from that. Maize price for poultry. I'm surprised when you talk about U.S. prices being lower. It cannot be true. You know why? I've been checking the Chicago commodity exchange every day. And I know for a fact that when the poultry farmers petitioned me about the high prices of maize, one of the solutions, and I called them into a meeting, one of the solutions was that I was going to give them permits to be able to import yellow maize into this country. I gave 3 permits, one for, I think, 40,000 metric tons, one for 20, and one for another 60 or so. And whilst I was giving the permit, I knew that there's no way they could be able to do it, because you check the prices that they were talking about in Techiman and Tamale and Kumasi. In spite of the fact that they are high, they were high relative to previous years, the world prices were much higher than that. And lo and behold, none of them was able to bring yellow maize into this country. So we may be a bit tight with prices and so on, but relative to world prices, Ghana is doing very well, because otherwise it will be the reverse. As you say, it will be cheaper to import than to buy local maize. But I can tell you, and anybody can check, the Chicago market is open today, Sunday, it doesn't tomorrow. And compared to the price, the wholesale price in Techiman, Kumasi, and Tamale, you'll find that our prices are much lower than what is on the world market. So I will challenge your figure of US
10
prices being lower.